Okay, guys, well, welcome to this week's group discussion about the case. Do we have someone who'd be willing to give the prayer?
I'll go ahead and do it.
Okay, thanks, Zane.
Yep. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this opportunity we have to meet as a group, and thankful for this beautiful day, and blessed that we may be able to discuss the main points of the case and get new insights and be able to share in a spirit of harmony like usual. And thankful for all that you do. And say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Okay, so this week we read Recruitment of a Star. And it basically was about Stephen, and he worked for RHS or RSH, sorry.
I was like, RHS, what?
Oh, Alicia's in the house.
Well,
Alicia's in the house.
I went to Reagan High School, so I'm so used to saying RHS instead of.
Oh, same. I went to Ryrie High School, so I did the same thing. When I wrote my report, I had to change it all afterwards.
Yeah. So anyways, so Peter, one of their top analysts for the semiconductor section of their company, that he decided to up and leave the company. So Stephen has gone through and trying to figure out who is the best replacement for Peter. So the first question is, we're supposed to discuss the pros and cons of each of the candidates. So we'll go ahead and there are 5 of us. So if we each take a candidate, because there's 5 candidates in total, and just kind of discuss the pros and cons of each. So we'll start with Seth, if you don't mind, or Zane, sorry. Zane, if you don't mind starting with David Hughes, and then Kevin, if you want to take Gerald.
Gerald, got it.
And then Sarah, if you want to take Seth. And then Alicia, if you want to take Sonia, and then I'll take Vina. And now we'll kind of discuss the pros and cons of each of them. So, Zane, why don't you go ahead?
All right, let me open up the case real quick.
And you said we're going to be discussing both sides, like things we like about the person and dislike, like pros and cons?
So just kind of present pros and cons of each. If anyone has any comments or anything to add, you can do it.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. I forgot to open up the case. Give me a second. You said I'm doing David?
Yes.
Austin, you're putting me on the spot here. Why'd you put me first? No, I'm just kidding. He's a tough crowd. He's a tough crowd. I heard crickets there.
No, not even the crickets were chirping on that one.
Yeah, I know.
You were completely alone on that one.
Completely alone on this one.
Completely alone.
Oh, man. Is David... All right, I'm seeing Seth. Is David up here?
David should be the first one he interviewed, I believe.
Okay.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah,
that
if you want to go
works.
ahead, Alicia.
Yeah, okay, so Sonia, that girl, she's okay, so her pros, I would say that her pros are she knows what she's talking about, as well as it looks like she has a lot of potential for success because she started with a small business and was able to kind of be successful through that. So I think that shows like a lot of reliability and her ability to change a company into something better. But like it said, her cons would be that she can't really travel because she's got like higher obligations, which, I mean, I don't like calling that a con because I'm a feminist, but I do think that does make it difficult for the company because if they do need to send her somewhere, they need to have someone that's able to travel, and whereas in her situation she's not.
Right.
So I'd say that's a flaw. Well, not a flaw, but like a con of hiring her is that they'd have to figure out a traveling schedule with that. And they also mentioned that her other con would be that she didn't know anyone in New York, so then she wouldn't have like a network. But I honestly don't think that's going to be a problem for her from what it sounds like. Anyway, so that's Sonia.
Okay, and for David, I think something about him, I like how he showed up right at the beginning of the interview. He was on time. I think that's pretty important. I see a lot of people, they can't even make it to their interviews on time or anything, and it kind of shows a lack of responsibility in my eyes. So that's more of like a soft skill type thing that he did well. He's prompt. He had experience. He was already like a top stock picker, and so he already had a lot of experience.
Mm-hmm.
But then David, it looks like he started taking over the conversation too much, and so Steven thought he was getting more interviewed by David. And so I think sometimes you want to keep a balance in an interview. You don't want to come off as overbearing, and I think David kind of did that.
Now, was David the one that he was on vacation, or was that Gerald? I can't remember.
I can't remember.
He was on vacation, and there was some.
David was on vacation with his kids.
Yeah.
His grandkids. That's right. It was him.
Yeah, it's David.
Yeah, so that was kind of one thing that kind of raised some concerns when I was reading, is that he, had that opportunity, or he didn't really, show initiative at that standpoint. But that would be another thing for me.
What did you think of his?
He refused to cut his vacation short. So he was on vacation when he heard about a problem in the semiconductor industry, and he refused to cut his vacation short.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep. That's him.
I think it's kind of neat. See, I'm on both sides of that, where he let the junior analyst handle the matter. Maybe that shows.
That's a good point.
Maybe that shows that he puts trust in people, and he doesn't butt in when or overstep his boundaries. A big part of leadership is knowing how to delegate properly. So it's good that he seems like someone that had the trust of his team, that he could just say, I'm on vacation. Can you guys handle it? Like some people would cut their family vacation short and piss off all their family and have a horrible family life.
Yeah.
To impress their job people. And it's like, if you don't have a good family life at home, how are you going to be successful at work? So actually, it shows that he probably has a strong family life, which means he's probably more trustworthy on the job.
And has more balance in his life than maybe someone else.
Yeah, someone that's just all obsessed about work and is like, well, forget family and let's just charge head on to make sure I climb the ladder the quickest. Instead, he said, you know what? I'll let someone else get the. Someone else can take the credit. I'm sure when he got back, he gave credit like, wow, while I was away, I was able to trust my junior analyst to take care of the problem that was going on. So
right.
I think the next paragraph under the one that talks about him being on vacation, he defends himself and he's like, yeah, look, I smoothed it out when I got back. And because I smoothed it out, I got ranked really well. Like I got ranked as a second teamer in the semiconductor industry. So I agree with Zane with the logic, just that, yeah, sure, he was out of the picture, but the end result, happy clients, happy, I assume he did well. So I think it was an okay thing. I think it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, actually. I didn't think about it that way, but that actually makes a lot of sense, and that's really smart, actually.
So I'm reading this book currently. It's called How Champions Think. I just started it, and it talked about to be a champion in your field. This guy's a sports psychologist. He has like a PhD, and he coaches like top athletes. And he says a lot of them that you'll meet are very single-minded in what they do. So if you talk to LeBron James, he probably focuses solely on basketball. And so he says a lot of these athletes, they end up not having a family life outside of their work because they're so obsessed with their work that they have to have a really strong spouse to take care of the home, because otherwise the kids want nothing to do with the dad because he's always so involved in work. And he said the most successful, though, are those that have a balance between they're obsessed with work, but they also know when to turn it off and be able to be with their kids and have a relationship with them and their family, because the end of the day, you
Yeah.
can't be successful without your family being with you. So
Yeah, and I saw along those lines is I think last week I saw it was Messi, and he was at his son's soccer game, just sitting on the side. He didn't try and step in on coaching. He just was sitting there doing that, and that kind of reminded me of that. Is here's probably arguably the best soccer player in the world, and he's just sitting watching his son play play soccer. So that balance between family life, work, and church, and all these other things will definitely play an aspect in our business lives. Okay, thank you, Zane. Kevin, Gerald.
So Gerald has a background. His mom is a mechanical engineer. His dad's a businessman, a portfolio, something or other. So he has all the makings to be a successful semiconductor analyst. He's got like experience in both sides coming from mom and dad. He's been ranked in the Industrial Investor multiple times. He's had experience with multiple different companies. I can see that for good or bad. He doesn't stay at a company very long, so that's kind of a negative. Positive, he's been exposed to different cultures and different society, different way businesses are run. So he's got more experience in that sense. And because of that, he's probably got more contacts and connections. What else? He arrives 15 minutes late and doesn't give any kind of sorry, any explanation, nothing. He just, all right, here we go. Let's start talking. Going to what Zane said, it doesn't show those soft skills, those people skills. Very brash and kind of a me monster attitude. And in my opinion, it gets worse as they begin the interview. Gerald's very much about making the buck. He is all about, all right, how much am I going to get paid? How am I going to be successful? What do I need to do? I don't think he will fit well with the
Culture.
What is it? Yeah, the RSH culture for team unity and things. Some evidence of that. He fired a dude in a meeting, not even after the meeting, one-on-one, dude, you're fired. It was right there, drop of a pin. Hey, you just made a mistake, you're gone. And it's okay, that's intense.
I did not like him at all.
Nope, me either.
He was probably
I thought he was arrogant.
Yeah, he was probably my least favorite of the bunch.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even called him back.
Yeah,
I probably would have ended the interview early and been get out.
end it right there. You're done. You're not.
Be like, oh, you ended it in a meeting. Here, I'll end it in front of everyone in this restaurant. We're not gonna hire you.
Yeah,
I would be so. Oof.
I'm very much of the same opinion. I said in my write-up that even if everyone else turns the offer down, don't go with him.
I did the same thing. I was like, do not. This guy is no.
Yeah, he'll drag the team down.
You'd be better with the Rena girl. The Rena girl?
Yep.
What's her name?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd be better off with just her.
Yeah,
Yep.
but even beside that, I think he was late. To me, that's not okay. He was late for the meeting for an interview. That's not okay.
Yep.
I don't care how big, how important, how much money you make, how important you think you are. No, you cannot be late. That shows disrespect in the highest regard.
Yep.
That means you do not respect somebody else's time.
Yeah.
And
So
time is something that people can't get back.
Exactly.
the least he could have done, I mean, yes, he's late, maybe justified it. Hey, my wife is dying in the hospital. Something. He needed something. But the fact that he had nothing, I agree with Sarah a lot. Just down with Gerald.
Right at the beginning. No.
Oh no, and the fact that he didn't kind of shows me like the arrogance that, oh, I've got this in the bag, I'm gonna get the job,
and that he didn't need to excuse his actions.
That's an interesting view. So let's devil's advocate here. He is really good at what he does. I mean, his quality of
So
work, his everything else. Like he's been in the industry. He's ranked in the II. Like
Piss
he's
everybody off.
yep.
Like that's great
Make
that he's ranked
enemies
like in
out
the
of
industry
everybody.
because the industry is not going to get ranked at all with his help.
You have David Hughes, you have other candidates who apparently do just as good of work. So
just David and Gerald are the two proven stars, if you want to call them that.
yeah, and then Sarah will get into Seth with his little booklet of praise.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the other thing too. Going back to that little bit about the firing, he was proud of that. Asked him about it. He was proud of that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that shows a lot of bad signs.
Yeah. All right, that's all I got to try and defend him. I think he's a loser.
Yeah. Nice try playing devil's advocate for that one.
Yeah, swing and a miss.
Well, yeah.
All right, Sarah, do you want to take on Seth now?
Yeah, I don't like him, but
Yeah,
that's just me.
neither do I.
I'm not a big fan. Too smarmy for my. I don't know if yeah. He's a kisser, I guess. I'm not.
Schmoozer.
Yeah.
Brown nosers.
I'm sorry, but my opinion that he's just not. He's too much of a people pleaser. He's I don't know. It's my opinion. He's too. I don't know a technical term for that, but he's too smarmy, too Jer's pet, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
How you want to put that. But anyway, let's see. Get my page on
So just as a fun throwing it out there, Seth is actually the one that I gave the job offer to. So I'm excited to talk about it.
let's see. Go back to the page on him. Profile. Okay, here we go. All right. Well, he certainly works long hours, and that's a good thing. That this requires that. And apparently, so that's a good thing. That's a good plus. He picks some great stocks. He has a sort of a good client base. He has a potential as far as his II ranking, but he's only a runner-up, and so he doesn't really have a good track record. He's enthusiastic, but like I said, it's smarmy, and to me, that's just too. It's over the top and too much. I didn't like that. He one of his strengths is he does have a strategic plan to get more into the II rankings. So that would be a good thing. He has a lot of potential. I think that he shows a good potential too with client relationships. But one of the other things that I did not like also was that he that he destroyed his relationship with his family. He ruined his 8-year marriage, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that he basically chose well for his family and messed his family up for his job. That to me showed a lack of character. I didn't like that at all.
Right.
Besides anything else, but underneath, to me, that shows a lack of character. But anything. But weaknesses, bigness, the smarminess, eagerness to just please people. I think he has the potential to be like that person who's so eager to get to the top that they're willing to do anything for anybody
Right.
to get there. And that's a potential to be used to be used in a bad way by maybe other people who might not be, to be used by people, anybody, in a nefarious way. I don't know, I mean, because he's just not going to be discriminate about who he's going to do what for, and he doesn't have a really good track record. So I didn't like those things about him. So that would be my assessment.
That is a good assessment. That's kind of along the same lines as my trains of thought. Rena, really quickly, there wasn't a lot of information about Rena. Some pros is that she's already with the company. So she kind of already knows what the culture is about. There's a learning curve in the sense of that she would need to learn the position that she was about to receive. But as far as company culture, company policies, different things like that, there was no learning curve. Also, she, people know her, so already you're not getting to know someone new and have the potential of someone not liking them or not. Almost everyone on the team has already worked with Rena, and she's already in the position temporarily right now. So that would be some pluses. Some minuses is that she doesn't have as much experience as the other ones, and she's not ranked. And those were kind of my things. Again, it didn't really give too much information on Rena, just that she was a junior analyst and that she was temporarily in that position, and they were debating whether to give it to her or not.
Well,
I think since she's already in the company, it kind of fosters like a
Trust.
Well, I thought actually the opposite. I think it's sometimes stagnated thinking. I think bringing in fresh perspectives from a new person helps get better results than someone that's been in the company a while. They might be going through the motions. They don't have
that's
a
actually
fresh
smart. I
outside
didn't think about
perspective.
that.
You think about new converts to the church, and they're bringing in a fresh perspective, and there's an excitement because they didn't grow up in the church. They didn't have the gospel their whole life. So when they taste it, it's so fresh, it's so new to them that they're excited and on fire. So I think sometimes it helps to bring in new people to shake kind of the culture up, to shake things up if it gets excitement going.
And in my assessment, I picked Rena. And I kind of had a different thought process than you did, Zane. And I would want to be with a company that wants to invest in the employees that they already have. Why stick around with a company where promotion's never going to be a thing until 10, 15 years down the road? And then as part of my assessment, I read an article, and it costs to bring in someone new, it costs their salary and a half to bring in someone new. So if you bring in someone for let's just say $40,000, in 1 year, it's going to be $40,000 plus $20,000 to $30,000 of training and so it's going to cost the company a little more. So I just think that from a perspective, you want to get someone that you can train up to the positions that you'll need them to be, and I think that's why I went with Rena.
Right. Normally Austin, and this is the thing. Normally Austin, I would totally agree with you. And my first thought was really that when I first started reading through this, my first thought was really to go with Rena, and I was geared to go with her when I first started reading through this because she already is there. And in his book, Jim Collins says in the book Good to Great that he says, let me see, page 54 here. I read you exactly what he says. He says, get in here. He says that you're supposed to, he said, don't hire outside. He says, look from the pool of people you have.
I did
So
read that.
don't hire outside. When you're looking for people for talent, don't hire outside your company. Look where you're at. Look first in your own company and see what you've got first before you start going outside.
That's true.
Look in your own talent pool. And normally that's what I would suggest because as you said, that's true. When you have to start going outside, it costs you a lot more. However, Rena, she doesn't have the experience in the semiconductor industry. That's a big deal. She just doesn't have the experience with the specific industry. That's a lot. Normally, but with this, you have to have that specific knowledge. This isn't like everybody kind of knows computers and you can kind of know a different kind of computer and you can kind of catch up to it. This is totally different. You have to know the industry. You have to know that. It's something that's very specific. And she doesn't know it. She doesn't have experience with that. And she just does not have the strong decision-making ability. She goes to the senior analysts quite a lot for help. For help already. That shows a lot of lack of confidence. And she admitted within the papers that she's an introvert. And to me, that shows that she probably needs to develop more team skills, you know? Because of some of those things, I mean, she does have, she's good at her work. She worked with Peter, but he was this hotshot dude. And I don't think he was a very good mentor to her. He didn't show her the ropes of the semiconductor industry. He wasn't that kind of guy.
Right. So kind of play devil's advocate on that is so then why should Rena be penalized for Peter's lack of leadership?
Yeah, to be honest, I think that she actually showed a lot of humility in going to the senior analysis people. And I think that being an introvert is not a character flaw.
Yeah.
No, it's not a character flaw. But, and I don't think she should be fired. But I think she just needs more time.
Experience.
She needs more time and more experience.
Okay.
This job is just too much for her. So my personal recommendation was that she just needs more time and she needs someone to mentor her more until she can get to this kind of position herself. She's just not ready for it. It's too big.
Right.
It's really just too big for her. And so I liked her a lot, and I still do like her. She's great. But it's just too big. And so I think she should stay in the junior analyst position underneath the new person who's going to come in. That was my recommendation, that they would then become a mentor to her, that she could then be able to move up. And I think she could become a star, that they could help her, if they would help her, to be more confident, to have those strong decision-making skills, to learn the semiconductor industry. She could do it. She's smart. She's very smart.
No, I totally hear
She's
you.
a hard worker. She's smart. She's loyal. She's stayed with the company. She dealt with Peter, who wasn't a great, he wasn't a great guy. I'm sorry, but he wasn't.
Another thing that she does not have going for her is that Stephen Connor's boss does not really approve of her as a full-time senior analyst. So Stephen's also getting pressure from above not to hire her.
Right.
And some of the other analysts, too, are also complaining about her.
Also true. So she doesn't have people talking her up in the company.
Yeah. I guess
sometimes that could be because they want to promote themselves, though. I've seen that in companies where they try to make others look bad tactfully so that they can look like the star and then move up. So I sympathize with her sometimes, because sometimes if you don't have a personality that can
charm,
that can do the political the office politics, then you really do stay at the bottom, unless you're the headstrong, forceful one that can make others look bad. So,
but that's not this company. They're really that's not the culture. This culture is really a team thing.
Well,
and the people who were complaining about her were senior analysts. Not really complaining, but they were saying she's just not right.
Yeah.
She's just not right. You got to hire somebody different.
Yeah.
Like there was no reason for them to really. There was no benefit for them to say that.
Yeah.
They're already senior analysts, and his boss is already above him. There's no benefit for him to say she shouldn't be, in that position, except for,
At the same time, just because a company has a culture doesn't mean everyone abides by it, even in upper management.
That's true. That's true.
Well, speaking from a personal experience, I used to work for a company, and they had like their 10 core values, and like their number one core value was do the right thing all the time. And it was in San Antonio, where I used to live, and it was a housing complex there. And they were like, do the right thing all the time, but then they would just go behind, everything was about filling up your complex, filling up everything, to where, they would be like, okay, we'll offer this incentive, even though it's against, San Antonio city law, and it was just really interesting.
So they would say do the right thing, but then do something different.
Exactly.
Every company says that they do the right thing, and that we promote honesty, and we all believe in teamwork and all this. And I mean, who's going to say we believe in stomping on one another to get ahead? That's one of our core values. I don't know. I've been in some job oriented. I've never heard that one be promoted as one. Of course, everyone's going to say do the right thing, and we all get along here at this company culture, and that's not always
but
the case.
It has to come from the top. And like we've been reading in our book, it has to come from the top, and some companies can do it. They can, but it depends on how it comes from the top, and it has to come from the top, and it has to be pure. If it's not pure, it doesn't work. Because one little instance of doing something dishonest, of doing something that doesn't follow what they're saying, and it just blows up. It's that you say that, but you're not following what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
So
okay. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
So it's like, he was talking about the HP guy with the locks on the bins. How he was like, nope. He went in and he saw the locks on the bins after he'd already told people not to put locks on the bins, because he'd had an experience with the company where he worked before, where they stole, stuff, and so people put locks on the bins, and then people just decided that they were going to start stealing stuff, locks on the bins. So he came in and he ripped the lock off the bin, tossed it, and said, "At HP, we trust our employees."
Yep.
And then, he just never wanted to have locks on bins with tools.
It's a good
Yep.
idea.
So, I mean,
Yeah. No, I totally hear
but the
ya.
point that he was saying in the book was that, when you decide that you're gonna take that little 3% of the fraud, and you're gonna make up all these rules to deal with the 3% of fraud, so that you can deal with the 3% of fraud, you're going to alienate all the other people who aren't doing the fraud.
It's true.
Lose all the other stuff.
Right.
And you're gonna lose all this other stuff because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Be way, way more expensive than the fraud would have ever cost you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Okay, so the next question is, why don't we just go around? Some of us said who we picked. Let's just go around and say who we picked. We've kind of discussed them, and then there's a follow-up question after that. So I picked Rena.
Can we give our 1-2 options? So like our plan A, plan B?
The second question kind of goes with that. So just
Okay,
give your plan
okay.
1, and then we'll go over that. So mine was Rena. That was my first choice, just based off of
Mine too.
hire within the company.
Same.
Invest in your employee, give them the training that they need in order to do that. So that was my one. So then that was Alicia's one.
Yeah, that's mine as well.
Zane?
Man, now you got me on shifty ground here. I don't like that.
Okay.
Because I do see your point on that, and I have been in that situation where you see, like, it's tough when you're in a company and they don't want to invest in you. They might choose someone else from the outside. I'd still. Oh, that's tough. I'm gonna have to say David, the guy I had. And I say mainly because it seems like he has a good balance of life. He has experience in the field already, so there's no, even though you have to bring in a new employee, which they say can be expensive, I think lack of experience would prove to be more expensive in this case. The training of this would be more expensive. So the cost wouldn't be an issue with David, even though he costs more than everyone else. Just seems like he has it all together for the position.
Okay, and Sarah?
I went with Sonia.
Sonia was a good pick as well. And why did you pick Sonia?
Yeah. Oh, because she has it all. She has the skills. She has the personality. She has the background. She went to school originally at Caltech and majored in engineering. And she just knows. She knows the semiconductors. She knows the electronics. She just knows. She knows all that stuff. She has a good client service. She's got the analytical and research skills. She also knows the global market, which is something that they need to that they should really look at. They haven't gone into the global, and she's going into the global, and that's something that that would benefit them.
Mm-hmm.
There, she's got the potential star power. She's enthusiastic, hardworking. She's a team player, and she got the up and comer, and she didn't have any support on II. She did that on her own.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't have the people behind her. She didn't have the 5 million assistants and the people. She's got the rapport with management and CEOs of companies. Yeah, she's at a smaller firm, but she's got the drive. She's got it. She's got it there. And to me, I think that some of the things that are her weaknesses can all be dealt with.
Right.
The few weaknesses that she has can all be off, in my opinion. She's to me, when I read through when she did the interview, I was like, holy crud, she's asking questions. She's asking him stuff that's
He didn't even
intelligent
realize.
and yeah, things that's just, she had a plan when she went in. She was asking him stuff that he was surprised. She's intelligent. She's smart. She had the global thing that she did stuff. She's in the up and comer, and she did stuff on her own and without the support. And what could she do if she had the support? If she had the junior analyst on her, she had her own junior analyst and she had her own administrative assistant all to herself, what could she do with that?
Yeah.
With the kind of resources that the company has, what could she do with those? And what she did without them.
Right.
In my opinion, she did so much without, and her enthusiasm and her hard work to do it without. Now, if she had the opportunity to do it with.
Yeah.
I agree. Then I think that with her personality and who she is, she would make an excellent mentor for Rena.
Yeah.
I think they would fit together perfectly. Great team. I mean, I don't know. I just, I'm in love with that dynamic of her being in that position and her helping Rena and I'm in love with that whole situation. So
perfect.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
And then Kevin.
Sarah, you really do sound excited about that.
I know.
I am.
That was a good argument. I'm sitting here saying, man, I chose Rena.
How do we go against that? Can we switch now or what?
And then
I'm sorry, guys. I know, but
and then Kevin, you chose Seth.
Yes. So
quick reasoning why.
I took him as more of an underdog than the brown noser. I thought he came very well prepared. He knew he did not have as much street credit as maybe Gerald or David Hughes type people. And so he wanted to bring his A game. He brought recommendations from his clients and the work that he's done. Something that was only mentioned with Seth that none of the rest mentioned was his ability to choose the stock well. And that's something that Stephen Connor relayed to Craig Robertson, the hiring guy. But Seth came through a different person. Like the fact that he had those skills, those were found without even someone looking specifically for them. His breakup of his marriage is a deterrent, it's true, but at the same time, from the point of view of a company, he is very dedicated to his work. It means he's a hard worker. He's stayed with his previous company for 15 years in circumstances that he said he didn't love. I mean, he's willing to put the time in. He's willing to get the job done. I think he is the best fit for RSH, and so I gave him the job, the callback.
Perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to share my screen real quick.
And I will say too that, side note, I did like David. I thought he was a excellent pick too, but like he's so well known and so good. He comes with a big bit.
That's true. Yeah.
I have to pay him a lot. If I hire him, I have to pay him a lot. So
Right. Yeah. So right here, it's showing what each candidate currently makes, and then what their salary would be at RSH. And so David would be 1.5 million, which is 5 times what Rena would make in that same position. Gerald is 1.2, which is 4 times. Seth was 1 million at 3 times. Sonia was 0.7 million at 2 times what Sonia would make. Or sorry, what Rena would make, and Rena would make the same amount as she is making at $0.3 million. So, with that in mind, would any of you switch? Your choice.
I think Rena's going to be bitter if she gets a promotion and then still gets paid the same. Who wants to get promoted to a higher position and receive the same pay?
Exactly.
I know
No way.
if I'm in that boat, I'm going to be like, all right, so you just gave me a lot more responsibility. You gave me this trust, but now you're saying, oh, but your
Yeah.
pay is
But
still
you're not
going to
worth
stay
it.
there. Yeah, you're not worth it.
Yeah.
We're gonna still pay this. That's jacked up.
And no.
It's sad. That's a lot of reality right there, though. That
Yeah.
happens a lot in companies where to watch their bottom line, they'll jip people because they just are thinking short term and are like, hey, if they'll take it, let's just pay them less. And it's like some people don't speak up and they're not forceful enough to be like, hey, I want to negotiate this. And so I think she'd have resentment working for the same price she's getting right now. I'd have resentment.
I agree.
Yeah, well, in that case, she'd have to set her boundaries and say, I'm doing this job that I'm doing more than I was before. So if you want me to do this job that I'm what I was doing before, then you'll have to compensate me for more than what I was doing before.
Yeah.
I will do
think
what I was
that-
doing before.
Exactly.
I think that Rena is going to be bitter if someone else gets the job too. I mean, the fact that she's been working it, she's been trying hard. I think Stephen Connor says he's been happy with her work, so all signs are indicating that she's doing a decent enough job. I could see her quitting.
Oh yeah.
If someone else gets the job.
Yeah. And I think it's all.
I don't know about that. I don't know
think it all
about that.
depends on how Stephen approaches it. If Stephen goes, look,
Mhm.
Rena, like at this moment, you don't have the knowledge sufficient and the experience sufficient, but we want to invest in you. We're going to bring in someone who will be your mentor, where you can you can take their position when they leave. Whether if they chose David, he's going to be leaving once he retires, and that's not in the far future for David. But or bring in someone like Sonia and be like, well, here's another woman. She'll be able to get you to where you need to be. And maybe Sonia gets promoted to more of the, global side of things, to where Rena can then take over that. But yeah, so I mean, personally, I would change my number 2. And after looking at the numbers, my number 2 was Sonia, just because she's cheaper than all the rest. And she does have that, futuristic goal set in mind. So that's who I would change to after seeing those numbers. But
Well, I think the other thing too is that we have to. In the case study, it did say though that Stephen did make Rena aware that he was looking at other people. She knew that.
Yep.
It was only temporary. So
He even offered her a lead role in a different department.
That's a good deal.
So she knew that that this wasn't going to be probably a permanent thing. So she knows that, and he also came and told her that he was interviewing he was interviewing people, that was happening. So she knows.
Yep.
He's not keeping her in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
So she knows, and also I'm not so sure that she would quit. all indications to me in this paperwork and what I've read is that she's real loyal. I would think that she'll stay.
Mm-hmm.
She might not be real happy about it at first, but I think she's loyal, and I think she would stay. I think she would stay. That's
Perfect.
my opinion.
I have to step away real quick to make my daughter a sandwich. So
Okay.
if you don't, this is Zane. If you don't hear from me for a few seconds, I'm making a sandwich.
Okay, sounds good.
Jay.
So there's only actually 2 more questions. There were a lot more questions, but we kind of already discussed them, like would you give Rena a permanent position, so on and so forth. So the 2 questions that we haven't talked about yet is, does performance at one firm guarantee the same performance at another?
No.
No, and actually that's one of my biggest concerns with Sonia. I don't think she would do well going from, we'll call it little leagues to the big leagues. I think she wouldn't, she might, I guess I don't know. But that was a concern I had giving her the job, is that she excels at doing her own research, at not having assistants and people that can be devoted to her. Would she be able to delegate, or would she still want to produce work at that same level? I mean, the workload's going to increase, the intensity is going to increase. She won't be able to do the same thing she's done at the last workplace. So the question that you asked, Austin, is, do they correlate evenly, basically? I would say no.
Yes.
No, they don't.
Okay, for sure. You're just the line next door, right? Yeah, well, either that or.
Yeah, so that's basically what the question is asking. Do they correlate, like, just because, for instance, they're ranked at one firm, does that mean that they're going to be ranked in this one?
Mm.
I think that's kind of what the question is going to kind of getting at. But I agree with all of you with what you've said, kind of Sarah and Kevin. Zane, for just joining us. The question is, does performance at one firm guarantee that same performance at another?
You want me to answer that, or?
Well, we said that it doesn't. It doesn't guarantee that same performance. Do you agree with that?
It doesn't.
Performance at one firm in like a specific role, like the semiconductor.
So for instance, just like Seth, he performed really well and customers loved him, and his coworkers loved him, and he performed well in that company. If he were to make the switch, does that guarantee that same performance?
I don't believe it guarantees it, but I do believe it's a strong indicator if you've performed well in the past that you'll be able to perform well again in the future. I mean, when I look at these championship teams, for instance, just because I'm reading sports books right now, I think like you think of the people that have performed well in the past. Usually they get switched to another team and they still perform well on that team as well. So I think past performance is a good, not always, but is a good indicator for future performance. But there are underdogs that show up just out of nowhere, and people are like, "Whoa, where'd this person come from? We didn't know they had it in them," and maybe something triggered them to just take off and start getting great results. But
So Zane, I got a sports follow-up question for you. How often do you see collegiate level go to the professional and just not shine, not do well? So not going from pro to pro, but going from collegiate to pro or whatever.
Yeah, there's a good amount of them. There's a good amount.
You look at Tom Brady going off on the sports. He was drafted in the last round of the NFL draft.
Yeah.
And now he's won how many Super Bowls, and and talks as one of the greatest QBs ever to play the game.
And then how far behind were they on the Super Bowl? And then he came back to shine because he's already done it before. He had momentum. He's already shown that, hey, I've won a Super Bowl once. Just because we're down this much, I'll still show up and I can still become I'll still be a champion and win it.
Yep.
So
yeah,
I think past performance does I think past performance is a good. I mean, not the only indicator. I've seen people that are severe underdogs where you just be like, dude, I don't know if they're gonna amount to much. Not to be judgmental, but then you'll see them and you'll see them maybe 5 years later and you're like, is that a whole new person? Like, are they really doing that much with their life? Like, wow, that's really neat. So
Yeah.
but for overall, I've seen that like people that are star performers, they can perform anywhere.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And then the last question, and it kind of it's different from what we've been talking about. Should Steven have let Peter go, or should he have fought to keep Peter if he was such a superstar?
What was he going to do? Chain him to the desk?
Yeah.
Oh, he can't do much about it.
That's a good point. You can't chain people to desks these days. There's HR rules against that.
I know.
So something that I have a friend that's actually taking this class, but's in a different like section of it or something. And something that I said to him that he countered me with was that like, well, yeah, Steven offered him more money and he didn't stay. But I guess I read it wrong because my buddy pointed out he did the math, but he didn't actually make the offer. And so I think maybe Steven could have avoided a lot of headaches had he just made the offer to Peter.
That's true. I didn't even think of that.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. There was stuff about Peter that wasn't so great. So yep. I think that, there was things that, he said, maybe letting him go because he first of all, he had some good things. He was a good picker and everything, but he was really competitive and wasn't a team player. He was focused on money, and he was kind of conniving and not really. Instead of being perceived as a negotiator, he was perceived as being conniving, and really most of the people resented him. So, I mean, when you look at that, and he's looking at the money he's got to spend to keep this dude there is to be a team player, and
I think your microphone's breaking up, Sarah. Is anyone else getting that?
Yeah, I can't hear very well. I'm also, Sarah, where are you getting all that information about Peter? I mean, the only things I got from Peter is that he quit, like, real quick. So, I mean, it's shallow of him, but it never talks about him and money or any of the other quality faults that you're saying.
Says that he
actually, no, it does. It talks when he's talking to the headhunter. He talks about Peter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd have to go through literally all my highlights to see to see where, but yeah, I just know that he wasn't that great of a guy. So maybe I'm just saying maybe he thought, looking at the numbers and saying, this is how much I'd have to offer this guy to keep him. These are some of his negatives. So maybe offering him this much to keep him with some of these negatives, maybe I won't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe that's what he was thinking.
Yeah.
I know his boss was not happy about that. He wanted him to spend the world to keep him.
Yep.
It was like, he was like, you should have made him stay. Well, what was he gonna do?
Yeah.
Really, he could have offered him.
I think ultimately it will be a good thing. It will kind of, as was said before, and just bringing in someone new. Yeah, it's costly, but it can definitely bring a new perspective and take the business in a new way that you never thought could go. And I think with Peter, it just would have been complacent.
Yeah. And as Zane said, it helps bring in new blood. You know, shake
Yep.
things up and bring like a new, you know, a new feeling to the system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
So
I
that
think too, if they pick Sonya, it won't be as expensive. The skills. too.
Mm-hmm. So that is actually it for the discussion. Do any of you have any last comments?
Vote for Sonya. Oh,
Vote for. I think price isn't always the matter. So I'd pay 10 times more for someone that is going to make me 20 times more than pay 1 time more for someone that's not going to increase my sales at all. So I think bringing in someone that might be a little more expensive sometimes in the short term looks like it might hurt you, but sometimes those actually make you money in the long term. So
Yeah.
no,
don't always
but
go off price.
Are you looking for a
Yeah, I'm
short-term
not-
investment, or are you looking for a long-term investment in the person?
Yeah, exactly. So you'd want a long-term person.
Mm-hmm.
I think even though you're gonna pay less for Sonya, I think she's worth it. I think
Yeah.
she's gonna make you the money.
Yeah.
I think she's gonna be the long-term person, and I think she's gonna make you far more money over the long term. That I think she's your go-to girl, but that's me, and I'd fight you any day over that.
I know you would. I've heard you talk about her.
I go to I go to a boxing match. Anybody for her? She's my I very passionate about Sonya. She's my girl. I'll back her any day. I go to the ropes on that one.
You gotta have your people you'll stand behind.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
All right, guys. Well, if no one has anything else, that was a good discussion, and we got to an hour off of a couple questions. So
I'm impressed.
yeah. So if no one has anything else, I guess we'll see each other next week.
All right, sounds. I got nothing.
All right, see you guys.
Okay, see you
Adios.
guys. Have a good one.
Thanks.